I'm Jeff Altman, the Big Game Hunter, the head coach for JobSearchCoachingHQ.com, and welcome. People invariably are worried that if they are fired from a job, not laid off, but fired from a job, the next employer is going to find out. That's true. They can find out. See, what happens is if you sign a form at the time of the application that allows a firm to check a reference, or at the time you've accepted an offer, if you sign something that allows them to do a background check that includes a reference from a former employer, large firms generally will release that information. They may say they don't have a policy. Invariably, there's some way that you're at risk of it coming out. Now, I want to be clear. There I'm talking about large firms. Small firms, if a small firm is hiring you, the likelihood is, you can provide the references for them to check. And the result winds up being, it's not like you're going to give the boss that fired you for incompetence as a reference, right? You can pick a peer. You can pick someone who's a peer who says they were your manager or lead or whatever to support your candidacy. However, large firms, they're not going to put up with that. They are going to want the okay to contact your former employer. Your only hope there is if the former employer has a policy that says, we don't release any information. Now, I've recently had something where I was coaching someone who was looking for a position, having been fired by a former boss, who, the way he tells the story, just didn't like him and never gave him a chance after he had years of service with the firm and had done a fine job, but this one just had it out for him. But what the truth is, I have no idea. But at the time he was fired, they indicated they wouldn't say anything adverse about his candidacy. But there was a point where, he found out that this manager had. So I told him to call up the head of HR and say to them something very simple. And the simple statement I asked them to tell them was, it has come to my attention that your firm has violated an agreement that you made with me. The agreement was not to provide an adverse reference. I know that this has happened. I want to be clear. If it happens again, I will take strong and forceful action. I am sure you will not want to do this again, and you will insist your staff abide by the agreement. I had another situation where I had a senior professional who was facing an adverse reference. The senior management of his firm had again promised a good reference. He's coming up on a final interview. I suggest to him, no, actually, it wasn't a final interview. The executive search firm was going to be calling to do a reference check prior to a meeting with their client. So I suggest that he call up the president of the firm and say, hi, just checking in with you. You may get a call from someone representing about a position I'm up for. I would really appreciate it if you kept your agreement and provided a great reference, which they did. The point of the stories that I'm telling is if you've been fired, the goal is to get an agreement out the door that basically says either one of a couple of things. Number one is you'll provide me with a great reference and talk about economic circumstances dictating, the dismissal. Number two is that they, as an institution, state that they do not provide references for anyone, and they act that way should someone check a reference. The last area of background checking that can become questionable is dates of employment. What I always tell people is if you're not sure of the date, next to the date on the application, you put the phrase or the expression approx for approximately, which signals that you're not absolutely sure of the date. Now, if you're lying about your dates, that's something that if they check your background, they'll find pretty quickly. especially if you're covering up 6 months here or a year there. That is really next to impossible to get away with. I'll simply say that you're just better off being forthcoming rather than shooting yourself in the foot after you work so long to get this position. I'm Jeff Altman. JobSearchCoachingHQ.com is my site with curated information. Come join. I'll answer your questions personally. Have a great day.